Today I want to talk to you about the Kevin Hart Let Me Explain movie. In general, I thought the movie was good, but I don't think that it was funny as his other pieces, like Grown Little Man and Laugh at My Pain. Like, those were funny. In general, I don't think this movie was as funny because it didn't feel so personal to me. I felt like it was kind of exaggerated in some parts. Like the part when he was talking about how if he's late for work, he has to have an excuse. Like, to me, that was just so exaggerated. It's not something that I could relate to right off the bat, you know? And I know sometimes you have to exaggerate to make the joke funny, but it was just kind of like, I feel like sometimes he exaggerated so much that it was almost like he wasn't using his time on stage effectively. Like, he spent a really long time on some jokes when he could have like fit in more jokes. I think, thinking about the beginning of the movie, it seemed like a draft. It seems like it was an idea he had and he maybe didn't have time to like make it more concrete, but it just seemed very abstract. Going back to the realistic aspect of his jokes, I feel like some of his jokes were unrelatable. Like when he's talking about doing ecstasy with his girlfriend, and it's like, I remember his other movies were more funny because I could actually relate to them, you know, like I could actually say like, oh, like that happened to me, or that happened to my friend, or that happened to somebody I know. There were many parts of the movie that I was like, really, like, I don't want to bring race into it, but how many black people do ecstasy? And think about it, the majority of your audience is black. Thinking about like the funniness of the jokes, I don't think there was a consistent level of funniness. Like, I feel like, for example, in Grown Little Man, like he had you laughing all the way, back to back, back to back. But I feel like with this this movie, it was like I laughed, and then there were moments when I just wasn't laughing for a long time, and then I'd laugh again. I just feel like he didn't have as many like funny jokes. Again, maybe that, you know, relates to the fact that I couldn't relate to them. And just thinking about the layout of the movie, I mean, I think of comedy or any kind of like art form as like writing a paper. And the way that I was taught to write a paper is that the first thing you want to do is you want to captivate your audience. So you want to have a hook that makes them interested in reading, right? So same thing with comedy. You want to have a hook that makes them interested in watching you, right? After you have your hook, you have the meat of the paper. And the meat of the paper can go any which way because the meat is the middle. But then for your conclusion, you need to bring it all back, and it needs to be a strong ending, just the same way that the beginning needs to be strong, the ending needs to be strong. And I feel like connecting writing to his stand-up performance, I don't think he embodied this idea of a strong opening and a strong close. I think his opening was okay. It could have been stronger. It just seemed like a blueprint, like an idea. And I think his closing was definitely weak. Like that joke that he had about the horse, like being on the back of the horse with the instructor, and the instructor, you know, saying, oh, you ready to ride, or let's ride out, or whatever it was, and how it looked like he was having sex with the man. It wasn't strong. I feel like if I think about other jokes that he made in the movie, for example, the joke about how women, you know, they get really frantic and they're like, no, 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 and then they get serious and they're like, but this would be the last time. Like, that could have even been the end of the movie because it was a strong, solid joke. But I feel like the last joke that he had was not very strong. It was not very solid, and I just think like his choice in the order of the jokes was weak, and and as a result, it made the movie not his strongest movie. I know it's hard as an artist because you really, not only are you competing with the other people in your field, but you're also competing with yourself to be better, to do better, to keep people interested, to keep people coming back for more, and to keep your fan base growing. I know it's not easy, but at the same time, it's like you need to put more thought into your work. You need to give it more time if it's necessary, because you don't want to be making movies back to back and like they just get worse and worse. You don't want to do that. So this was my opinion. Let me know if you agree with what I had to say or if you disagree. And if you haven't seen the movie, I suggest that you go see it. I think if it's the first Kevin Hart movie that you see, I think then maybe, you know, it'll be funny to you. But I think if you've seen the other Kevin Hart movies and you go to see this one, you'll understand what I'm saying about it not being his best work. Yeah, so again, thank you for watching. Be sure to click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and check out the rest of my videos. Bye.